This is Arthur Metters, bass instructor here at Music Go Round. Today I was just going to talk about how I utilize a compression pedal, because it's a really confusing device if you don't know how to use it. So I'm just going to go over basically how I use it in a live show and recording. Compression pedal, what it does for me is it controls the dynamics. If you go from different types of techniques of playing bass, from slap bass, tapping, using chords, there's a dynamic difference in the volume. And so what a compressor is going to do is going to kind of smush them together a little bit. So it's going to bring up the low parts and it's going to kind of pull down the peaks. So you have a nice signal to give to the sound guy, or if you're playing a nice quiet room, it evens out everything to mix in with the band. So I guess the first thing I could probably show off is slap bass. So with slap bass, you're going to have higher volume because you're hitting the strings with more force. And at some points, it kind of thins out the low end. So what a compressor really does for me in a live setting is it kind of thickens up the tone when I'm playing. To give a good example, without the compressor, and that's a good tone on its own. But with the compressor, it's going to add a little bit more. It's going to accentuate. It's going to give a little bit more low end. So if you notice, the low end has a little bit more body to it, and that's just going to add to the glue of how the whole band mixes. And so that's one example. Another example is chords. And it's not utilized a lot on bass, but when a bass player needs to use chords, it needs to be out there. And they need to be very defined, or they get lost in the mix. And a compressor really helps with that. It helps with giving it definition. So, good example without the compressor. With the compressor. So if you notice, it does add a little bit more clarity to my playing. So once again, when I need to actually play chords, it is going to give me that definition. A technique, the last technique that I use it for is tapping, and that's kind of more specialized to me and kind of more modern bass players. The thing with tapping is it can be lower volume. So once again, when you switch from a regular finger style playing of, and you go to tapping, sometimes there's a volume difference. Either A, it's higher or it's lower. And so what this does is it helps even everything out. So once again, it also gives, once again, more definition and clarity. So without the compressor. With the compressor. Notice there's a little bit more smoothness and a little bit more gel into my tone and my playing. So it really, once again, if I get that solo section, it really helps out with that. Compressors are also great for solos. You can use them as a boost, really. So when you get that solo section, you have a little bit more of a boost, and it's going to have an even tone. So even if you're digging in harder, it's not going to be this drastic change in tone or drastic change in volume. There's been shows where I've used the compressor throughout the whole thing because I was like, okay, I'm switching through so many techniques, or the tone that I'm looking for, it's like an old Motown tone, and you know, they have those old compressors going, so sometimes that helps give that real warm sound. In the studio, I always advise to have a compressor ready. Usually engineers or producers have their own compressors that they love and they know how to stand by and they know how to work. But if they don't, you're there to solve a problem. You're not there to create a problem, so it's better to have a compressor than not to have a compressor. But yeah, if you're playing in very high energy bands where you're digging in, even if you're a very aggressive player where you're digging in with a ton of like that, a compressor would help you out because it's going to even it out, so you have glue with the band, so no note is sticking out more than the other note. It's just nice even bass. My name's Arthur Metters. I've been in Albuquerque my whole life. I teach how the music go around. I'm the bass instructor here. Hit me up if you like lessons. Thanks for watching.